Alright Lions fans, let's dive into some exclusive offseason updates on our beloved Detroit Lions. Before we get into the details, tell me what your thoughts are on Jared Goff. Some are blaming him for our loss and calling for him to leave. Others are saying he should stay and just improve his play protection. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to hit that like button to stay up to date with all the latest news and updates we bring you every day. Alright, let's talk Lions football. As we head into this offseason, there's a lot to unpack. The Lions have had an impressive run, but falling short in the divisional round has left us all hungry for more. So what's next? Let's focus on what really matters, rebuilding the roster and filling those critical holes to make a stronger push next season. Here's the inside scoop on the team's biggest needs heading into the offseason. One position that immediately stands out is defensive tackle. Levi Onwuzurike, a pending free agent, has had an up and down season. While he's shown some promising performances, including that standout game against the Vikings in Week 18, consistency has been a challenge. The Lions need to decide if they're willing to match what other teams can offer him in free agency. If not, who's stepping in to fill his shoes? Alan McNeil and DJ Reader both make solid contributions, but let's be honest, it's not enough. Broderick Martin, for example, has yet to prove himself as a reliable option for a full season, and with other depth players like Kyle Pico and Pat O'Connor hitting free agency, the need for reinforcements on the defensive line is clear. But that's just the beginning. Let's move on to the cornerback position, which has been a recurring question mark for 3 consecutive off-seasons. This year, the situation is a little different. Instead of scrambling to replace multiple players, the focus is on figuring out how the pieces of the current roster fit together. Terrion Arnold has shown promise, but is he ready to step into the CB1 role? Carlton Davis, who brought stability to the secondary last season, may be the Lions' best option if they're looking to keep a proven number 1 quarterback on the roster. However, with his injury history, it's a risky move. The alternative? Explore free agency or even the draft for a long-term solution. But as we all know, finding a true CB1 on the open market isn't easy or cheap. That brings us to the edge position. There was a lot of talk last season about the Lions needing more talent to complement Aiden Hutchinson. Brad Holmes made some bold moves, including taking a chance on Marcus Davenport, but injuries derailed those plans. The result? A lack of depth that became glaringly obvious as the season progressed. Now, with Josh Paschal entering the final year of his rookie contract and Zadarius Smith's future uncertain, the Lions have some big decisions to make. Whether it's through free agency, a trade, or the draft, adding a dynamic pass rusher to support Hutchinson is non-negotiable if this team wants to take the next step. Now, we can't talk about building a championship-caliber team without addressing the offensive side of the ball, and one of the most glaring needs for the Lions is at guard. The offensive line has been a cornerstone of Detroit's success in recent years, but it's no secret that things started to fall apart at critical points last season. Veteran Graham Glasgow, despite his versatility, struggled to maintain his form when he moved to left guard. His run-blocking grade dropped significantly, and he allowed too many pressures in big games. At 32 years old, the question is whether the Lions can keep him with a $7.43 million cap hit for 2025, or if it's time to move on and free up some cap space. Meanwhile, Kevin Zeitler, who turns 35 before next season, had a solid year, proving he still has gas left in the tank. But re-signing him is only a temporary fix. The real issue is depth and long-term planning. Rookie Christian Mahogany showed flashes of potential when he came in late in the season, but counting on him as a full-time starter without a reliable backup could be a gamble. The Lions need to prioritize that position, whether it's by targeting top talent in the draft or bringing in another proven veteran to bolster the line. Keeping Jared Goff protected and giving the running game room to thrive should remain a priority. Switching gears to the defense, let's return to the cornerback position for a moment. What happens if the Lions decide to part ways with Carlton Davis? It's not an easy decision. On the one hand, Davis has the skill set of a CB1 when healthy. On the other, his injury history raises concerns about his long-term reliability. Alternatives in free agency, players like Rasul Douglas or DJ Reed, could fill the void, but at what cost? And while the Lions could look to the draft for a young, promising cornerback, finding someone ready to step in and take on CB1 duties as a rookie is a tall order. This is where Brad Holmes has to get creative. Do you take a risk on Davis and bet on his ability to stay healthy? Do you use draft capital to trade up and secure a premium talent? Or do you double down on development, giving players like Arnold and Rakestraw the opportunity to grow into bigger roles? It's a high-stakes gamble, but one that will define the Lions' defensive identity next season. Finally, let's not forget the edge position, because let's face it, you can never have too many pass rushers. Aiden Hutchinson is a game-changer, but he can't do it alone. The Lions learned that the hard way last season, when injuries decimated their depth at defensive end. Brad Holmes acknowledged as much in his year-end press conference, noting that no team is prepared to lose 5 defensive ends and still maintain an effective pass rush. So what's the solution? Holmes could explore free agency for a veteran presence, but top-tier pass rushers rarely come on the market. Another option is the draft, but sitting at number 28 makes it tough to land a game-changing edge without trading up. Players like Shamar Stewart and Nick Scourton could be intriguing options, but it all depends on how aggressive the Lions are willing to be. With so many pieces in motion, one thing is clear: the Lions front office has its work cut out for it this offseason. But if there's one thing we know about this team under Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, it's that they're not afraid to make bold moves. All right, Lions fans, I want to hear from you. Which position do you think should be the top priority? Is it shoring up the offensive line, finding a true CB1, or adding more firepower to the pass rush? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's dive into the decisions and strategies that shape this offseason. We've already covered defensive tackle, cornerback, and edge. But these aren't just isolated issues, they're interconnected. The defensive line's ability to generate pressure directly impacts how much stress the secondary gets, and vice versa. Strategically addressing these needs could elevate the Lions' defense from solid to elite. One wild card to watch in this equation is Broderick Martin. If he takes a leap in his development this offseason, it could change how aggressively the Lions approach free agency and recruiting defensive line talent. But let's be real, relying on potential alone isn't enough. The Lions need proven players to step in and make an immediate impact. The good news? Detroit's coaching staff has shown it can develop talent quickly. Just look at how players like Aiden Hutchinson and Brian Branch have thrived early in their careers. On the offensive side, the guard position remains critical. It's not just about filling holes, it's about preparing the line for the future. Jared Goff had one of his best seasons behind a strong line, and maintaining that protection is non-negotiable if the Lions want to remain competitive in the NFC North. The draft could be a gold mine for finding a young, cost-effective starter who can become a long-term solution. But let's ignore free agency. Bringing in a seasoned veteran for leadership and stability could be just as valuable. Speaking of leadership, the Lions also face questions about locker room dynamics. Losing veterans like Kevin Zeitler or Carlton Davis would create voids not just on the field, but in the team's culture. This offseason isn't just about filling roster spots, it's about building a cohesive unit that can handle the pressure of a deep playoff run. Dan Campbell has emphasized the importance of grit and resilience, and finding players who embody those qualities will be key. And let's talk draft strategy for a minute. Brad Holmes has proven himself to be a wizard when it comes to maneuvering the board, whether he's trading for Jameson Williams or finding gems in later rounds. This year, with the Lions picking at number 28, Holmes faces a unique challenge: balancing immediate needs with long-term vision. Do you trade for a top-tier prospect like Shamar Stewart or sit tight and target a high-potential player like Nick Scourton? The choices Holmes makes will have repercussions throughout the roster. All right, Lions fans, I'm throwing it back to you now. What approach do you think is the smartest for Brad Holmes this offseason? Should the Lions prioritize free agency, the draft, or a mix of the two? Let me know in the comments. And remember, your opinion matters. We're all in this together as we chase the Super Bowl dream. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Go Lions!